guys, today I'm going to be talking about a fun little build that I did, and hopefully you guys saw, hopefully that turned out well, that whole shooting with the blowgun thing. I'm not sure how well that turned out because I was using plinking arrows, which are not the most accurate. But anyways, today I'm going to be talking about this fun build of a blowgun and explaining how I built this one and how you can build one, and then I want to talk about ammo selection and what ammo I shoot out of my to the ammo selection and different gear that I carry for the blowgun. Today I'll be talking about the actual blowgun that I'm using. So this one is built a little bit differently from a lot of other people's blowguns that I've seen online. This one is actually made out of a copper pipe. Here I can kind of show you here at this end. And this is actually made out of 1/2-inch copper pipe. And this stuff is really easy and reasonably cheap to get at places like Lowe's. And the reason why I chose copper pipe, the two primary things that you can use, at least buying from a hardware store over PVC, is one, the overall durability of copper pipe is a little bit better. And what I mean by this is PVC, especially in a larger length like this, has a tendency to crack instead of bending. And that's kind of what I like about copper piping, is while it is easier to bend copper piping than it is to break PVC, with copper pipe, it's very difficult to actually break this, whereas on PVC, you can actually break the blowgun, and that really sucks. But overall, when choosing a selection of material, you'll just have to factor the ease of which PVC breaks, as opposed to its lightweight. Because the nice thing about PVC is it is extremely lightweight. It probably weighs about half the weight of copper piping. But once again, copper piping overall is more durable. Another reason I chose 1/2-inch is 1/2-inch is a pretty good size in my opinion as well. There's these little things that you can buy to put on the bottoms of chairs. They're like a little piece of plastic that goes over the end on a chair that contacts the ground to keep the chair from scuffing up the ground, or vice versa. And if you get 1/2-inch, you can buy these little rubber pieces. I don't have any to show here because I lost them all, but you can actually buy those, and that's why mine has a little bit of exposed copper piping here, is so that you can slide it on, and not only does that help convert your blowgun into a walking stick, but it'll also protect the crown of the that is a really nice thing to have, and that's why I would recommend, if you do end up making one of these, try and make it in a 1/2-inch size so that you can put one of those on the end of the blowgun. So the other modification I made, as you guys can probably see because this thing looks like a camo piece, is that I bought some camo tape, and you can find camo tape at a lot of sporting goods stores. It's commonly used to wrap like shotguns or guns in camo, and it's really super easy to apply onto a blowgun, especially like a blowgun, because they're not that complicated and there's not that many little spots that you have to get. But this is what mine looks like, and I think it turned out really well. I think this is using Advantage Max 4 HD as the camo pattern. It's not an extremely loved camo pattern, I think, but I thought it looked really good at the time. This is quite an old blowgun. I think this thing is around 5 or 6 years old now, so it is quite an old blowgun, but it is really good, and overall the camo tape has held up really well. But anyways, I would highly encourage that. And then on this end here, it's starting to come up a little bit, but I just wrapped this with electrical tape to give my mouth just a little bit better of a hold on the actual piece of tape, or on the actual piece of pipe. And those are two things, regardless to if you get PVC or if you go copper, I would highly encourage that. So that is pretty much the blowgun. There's not too much to it. Honestly, as far as any modifications to the actual pipe, I haven't done anything to it, and I would not recommend doing anything to it either, just for the fact that some people have added like lasers and sights, but honestly, lasers and sights, to really get the most out of them, you would have to have extremely strong lungs. I mean, at the range you're likely going to be shooting a blowgun, particularly large matter, you know, whether you can put a laser on the target or not, because like I said, your lungs are probably not going to be strong enough to launch the dart at ranges in which lasers would become very useful. So anyways, I don't do that. I just use, instinctive shooting. And for me, so long as you get out and practice, you have to know where your blowgun shoots, especially if it's a copper pipe one. You have to know where it shoots, but once you know where it shoots, really, in all honesty, it's not that hard to hunt with them. And really, it's been my experience, it's harder to find, good ammunition that shoots reliably as opposed to the actual blowgun. So I haven't made any other like sight modifications. As you guys can see, this is literally just a pipe with camo tape and electrical tape wrapped around. Now on to some ammo slash tools that I carry for the blowgun. So I'm going to go over tools next because I really only carry one tool, and that is this. This, in case you're wondering, is a spent 375 H&H shell, and the reason why I carry this is for jamming. Inevitably it'll happen at some point, especially if you make your own blowgun ammo, that you will hit a dart that you cannot shove. Like, you just cannot produce enough pressure to shove that dart out, so you will have a jammed round. And so that's why I have this. This is a pretty heavy piece of brass, and I chose the 375 H&H. You can choose something else too, but I like the 375 H&H because it's a belted magnum, which means that there's a little belt at the bottom of this, and essentially it means that there's a lot of brass at the very bottom of this thing. And so I just slide this into the barrel, this side facing the dart, and then I hit the dart out with this piece here. So it's a little bit of a manual process, but you'll find that if you don't have anything to unjam your blowgun, it pretty much means you're without the blowgun for the rest of your hunting time, which really sucks. So that's why I carry this small little piece of brass, but it's very important to this particular blowgun. So that's the only piece I carry, and I would recommend carrying something like this. Piping like mine, do keep in mind that is 50 cal, so you can't put anything larger than a 50 cal. It would have to be smaller, so that's why another reason I chose a 375 H&H. All of these darts is this. I just buy these bamboo skewers. You can get them anywhere really, and they're quite useful. These are 10-inch. I prefer the 12-inch more than the 10-inch, but you can get 10 or 12-inch. This one here is a 12-inch. Both of these actually are 12 inches, and these are some 10-inch ones. I personally like 12-inch because the quality on them seems to be a little bit better. They also tend to have a little less flex in their body, but these both are 10-inchers, and they work okay. Make hunting and plinking rounds is essentially the base, the bodies of all of these. Essentially, I get these skewers, they already have tips on them, and then what I'll do is I'll take a knife and I'll essentially feather stick an area in here, but just in a circle, and I won't take the feathers off. And then I use either, this is polyfill, but sometimes I also use cotton batting. Either way, just find something that you like. I prefer polyfill because it's a little bit more resistant to the elements as opposed to cotton, but either work, and that essentially makes the compression, or allows you to have the compression enough to blow it. And you do want to be very cautious with this stuff. Make sure that you get enough to get a proper, seal, but you can also still push it out. Because if you make the seal too tight, then you have to use one of these. So that's what I do for making both rounds. Then what I do hunting rounds like these, it's very simple, and I wanted to keep the entire thing very basic, not just for you guys, but for me, is what I do is I'll take like soup cans, and I'll take the tin and then I flatten it, and then I cut it into these broadhead shapes so that they are not too large to fit in the 50 cal barrel, because they still have to be small enough to fit in the barrel. But I'll make broadheads that look like this or similar to this, and then I'll take the same knife that I used to feather the back of this and just gently split the top or the very tip of this, and then insert the broadhead. And then I usually use some like Elmer's glue, something very simple. Once again, it does not have to be like Gorilla Glue. You can use that, but like this is just Elmer's glue. And it doesn't have to be super good, because most of these darts are very expendable. If you shoot it and you lose it, oh well, you don't have much money invested in them. So that's how I essentially make those. I do want to note that with them, I generally will make up a batch of 50 plinking arrows, and then I go out and test fire all 50 of them, and then I usually choose the top 10 of that 50, and those go on to be my hunting arrows. And I say this because a lot of these skewers, they're mass produced and they're made for actually like shish kebabs, so their quality for shooting is generally extremely lacking. So they're not all of them will be very accurate. Some will actually be bent. I don't think I have any bent ones here, but I've seen some that are like more in a U shape than in a straight shape. So some will be just seriously bent, and those can still be really fun for plinking and like, trick shots, but for serious hunting, that's how I kind of weed out the bad ones. Is that I'll just shoot like in batches of 50 of them, and then the 10 best of the 50 go on to actually be the hunting arrows. So that is how I make these darts. These are a little bit different from most of what you see, and you can certainly buy commercial darts. I think they even have commercial darts for 50 caliber blow guns, but you can do that. You definitely don't have to though, and like I said, I prefer to make my own. I think it's a lot more fun, and you get to really customize, just like with a hand load in a rifle or a handgun. You really get to customize and tweak this to your exact needs, and so done properly, these darts can actually be extremely effective.